Buddy, it's Rich, about to finish off today. You know, normally I would never take a complete assessment of my life. I understand that's actually very healthy. Probably the only second time I've done it in my lifetime. There's a lot of experiences. I have a lot of memories. You're able to go back, reassess them. It does achieve good, solid growth in that respect. And normally, no, I would never do that. But, with what I'm experiencing out here in Alabama, I have completely been transformed to a completely different norm. I didn't even know it. I knew things weren't right. That I did know, because where I come from, that's 100% true. That's true, that business experience I gained. All I was seeking was needing the highest level of expertise. And that was it. That was it. This has to be one of the most significant challenges. Somebody gets thrown in homelessness. They get themselves in a situation where stuff like this goes on. But I didn't even know it. But honestly, I did the research. And when medical records are intentionally falsified, and then I honestly have to say, absolutely, that immunity is waived. It's completely waived. When you falsify medical records, that immunity is waived. And honestly, I never did commit any disorder. I never did. But what happened down here in Alabama is I was transformed legally and medically to a different incorporated norm, which wouldn't have made any difference. But I think people are confusing. Down south here, the medical special interest is so powerful, the psychology completely out of control. I've never experienced an environment like that for over 40 years, because I'd call up to College Lake County, and it's not a medical issue at all. And I think down here in the South, people are confusing that. I don't understand that, because someone with the experience I was able to gain, if I would have picked up my bags immediately and headed back up north, I don't even question it would be unheard of for someone with a background to end up homeless down here. And yet up north, that would never happen. Not with that experience. And yet down here, that kind of foolishness is a fully incorporated norm. What I understand here is by documenting something, it's complete negligence, but it's outright falsifying the medical records. That's how they ended up legally and medically documenting it. This kind of foolishness should never go on. But the truth I stated up north in Lake Forest with that business experience is fully within proportion. I have to fully be able to demonstrate it, and I certainly do have that experience. I don't understand how that can't exist down here, because that's one of the most valued aspects of creating success in business, I understand. That's what they taught me, those business leaders, and a lot more than that, too. If I were to be, and see, that would be self-explanatory. Absolutely. I was simply seeking, all I was seeking was the most general inquiry and the highest level of expertise in professional career counseling. That is it. Even when I contacted U.S. Department of Labor Education at really the highest level, back to it again. I was seeking the highest level of expertise. That is such a reasonable request. I wasn't even seeking the education, but it's that stranglehold of entrepreneur, how it occurred, is where it became very, very serious. Very serious. I got to say, not one single person listened. Not one. First, it was relying on a doubtfully then result of falsifying medical records, an invalid for a psychiatrist to reveal a risk of your work, to stock shelves at a health food store. Let me guarantee you, this isn't done yet. Because if I'm absolutely pushing survival now, my actions are going to coincide exactly to what's true about my background. And I understand it's impossible. They got a human studies professor, and I never did commit a disorder. It's all related to this stupid entrepreneur that they can't get off, they can't stop fixating on. See, things like that. Fully incorporated norm. And ultimately, I kept telling him, I'm SNEED, professional career counseling, a PhD, okay? And see, that's where what I understand is equivalent to falsified medical records. The human studies professor, what Jim Harris III and that attorney did, it's outrageous. The truth is that those medical records were falsified, without a shadow of a doubt. And in addition, I was never seeking education. I was seeking the highest level of expertise consistent with that experience, professional career counseling, preferably from a PhD, because that's consistent with the experience that I have. That is well beyond their capacity. They are obviously, and it's very obvious, they are maximizing performance by falsifying medical records. And in most cases, the medical, there's no way somebody could prove it. However, with me, I am able to. I am able to. There's a very good reason I would immediately head back up north in absolute survival. That would prove it. That does prove it, consistent with my background and that experience. Did I injure myself? No, not knowingly. I didn't know that down here everything's the most serious form of disorders. And two, I didn't know anything about falsifying medical records, nor what is teetering very close to psychological malpractice. Only, and I'm not kidding when I say the political environment and medical is completely out of control out here. This is absolutely unheard of for this kind of stuff to go on in Lake County, Illinois, or the Chicagoland North Shore. So, I should have, listen, I'm talking about only the highest level of expertise, the wise counsel. That's all I was seeking. That was it. And I have a feeling down south here that people are equating that to a very unhealthy context, which all of this is of the most serious violations. This is where career becomes nothing more than medical, when it's not medical at all. It's only career, but it's really intensified because both of those are so out of control with corruption out here. There is no corrections. Okay? There is no such thing as a correction. You do things that are very much wrong and harm other people. And I do have to say, absolutely, I would fully cooperate with any sort of assessment. I don't believe I would experience corruption nor any falsification of anything in Lake County. They would clearly understand what I'm documenting here. That's why I'm doing it right now. So, in all actuality, did they intentionally, if not one single person was willing to listen, not one. There was nothing mutual. There was no correction. I understand context as in this. is, and I never did commit a disorder. They create them. You're getting that firsthand. I've been through the whole thing out here. It's a completely different incorporated norm. I have to say it's very easy to discern that. The special interest and medical, they're so out of control. I have never experienced psychology so out of control. But in all actuality, was psychological malpractice committed? I have to say absolutely. Absolutely. If all I had to do was say entrepreneur, that's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. I have no history of disorders or any of that. They get a human studies professor. I never did commit a disorder. All of that was to put a real stranglehold on me related just to entrepreneur. However, that entrepreneur just happens to be where my business expertise falls. And I understand that I have gained that experience truly among the most successful business leaders in the nation. This all could have been success in the healthiest context. Do you know it's absolutely impossible to even get the most reasonable possible request? Professional career counseling. Absolutely. If you look at that evaluation, my medical records, absolutely, you get an end result with that. It's falsified medical records. It created the disorder. I brought it up further. These guys just yabbering away. Everything's all mental illness. Well, the thing is, you're able to prove it's not. There is none on you. That doesn't stop them. What do they do next? Human studies. All of that. Again, more of that. But it's not medical. It's only career. All of that happened just by mentioning entrepreneur. That is the honest truth. They created the disorder. And to the extreme degree, they built that legal case. That's psychological malpractice. That is psychological malpractice. But the fact still remains the same. I was only seeking the highest level of expertise, wisdom. That was it. That was it. If the damage has been done now, and I truly fall into homelessness, there is one way to absolutely prove it. And I can just imagine this area is long overdue to have someone with the background I come from. Way to prove it is to incorporate me back into that Chicagoland North Shore, which would take a lot of work. Would take a lot of work. Oh, for sure, that PhD in vocational psychology, that experience, I would adapt to that same environment, creating success immediately. It's absolutely unheard of. Where everything's all disorders of the most serious form. Where falsified medical records, absolutely, absolutely. I have to say absolutely. This is falsified medical records. I was never seeking education. I was seeking the highest level of expertise. What do? I expect for full disclosure, and I was simply asking for the absolutely most reasonable possible request. It can't be any more reasonable than that. Professional career counseling, and I was seeking a PhD consistent with the experience that I have. And yet, what do? You're a mess. It's not you. It's amazing that I didn't just look at what's written in law. I looked at every possible avenue, and I do have to say that the medical is so out of control out here. I have never seen psychology so out of control in steroids that people are viewing something that absolutely that's not a disorder. I would adapt right back in the Chicagoland North Shore, continuing on with a very successful career with that experience. And where does it really fall? Where it's most applicable? It's really up and down the Chicagoland North Shore with those most demanding clients, and I'm able to exceed their expectations. I'm fully experienced. Now, these resources would absolutely have to be utilized wisely and optimally to achieve a perfectly normal, healthy lifestyle. In no way do I fit the description of a homeless individual. I'm a business professional with that kind of experience. I can prove that. And that basically would prove a this area is long overdue for something like that. It is a very high-profile corruption. It's very high-profile. Will it actually now be successful? And I have to say, I could never believe in my wildest dreams something like this happened. But coming down here and staying down here. No, I wouldn't take responsibility for that. But it's been horrible. I mean, I would have had a very successful career, without any question, by relocating up north if I knew about this kind of foolishness with the medical and a completely corrupt political environment. It's bound to happen. When you really come down to it, the only thing I was seeking from the highest level of expertise was a very simple request. Should have been disclosed to me. It should have happened right away. All this falsifying medical records, yes. All this human studies professor and creating disorders, yes. And that is someone I would expect a correction from. Non-existent down here. Now you can see how something like that happens to someone. I overlooked it too. I expected what the law was meant to serve. What, professional career counseling? You're crazy? That's what we pay for. The cost is virtually nothing. And so, no way is this a disorder. No, I'm not mentally ill. But I did get all the help. There's only one thing. You can't get it. They're too busy maximizing performance, falsifying medical records, and building a bunch of prefabricating. There is no immunity in that. There is no immunity in prefabricating anything. It is that corrupt. There is no immunity. I've just taken a good solid look. There is absolutely no immunity to Jim Harris III. No. What proves it? Even no matter how severely injured I am, and if things were to come together correctly up north, I'd be able to resume a perfectly healthy, normal lifestyle with a good, solid career. And that help's going to have to be absolutely optimum this time. It's also an absolutely huge exposure of corruption. I desperately need legal. There's a very good chance the damage has already been done. And I'm going to end up homeless now. By all the help. There's only one thing. I can't find it. Only predatory metal. That I will get unlimited. And let me guarantee you that growing up in Deerfield and the business experience of Lake Forest is of the most serious disorder down here. Down here. Up there it's a full reality. Down here it's the most serious form of medical corruption. So I've disclosed it all. Absolutely. You're going to wonder how somebody like this could get out of homeless. I'm doing this for an absolute survival here. Absolutely none of this is medical. I never did commit a disorder. I have no history of them. I don't. No history of disorders. And regardless of being homeless, I could be thrown to homeless at any time this moment now. God, I wouldn't believe this could happen. Take it firsthand. I'm sharing experience with you. I must have been absolutely crazy to stay down here because everyone says that's, closely associated with that type of field has clearly told me, yes, I'm a very fortunate business experience, business professional, very fortunate. You do it right up where they know about Lake Forest, right off the bat. I would never exaggerate that business experience I was very fortunate to get. Sure, it's very unique. You see, unique is the most serious form out here. They knew about it up there, and I'm able to relate to anybody. I do need that PhD in vocational psychology. I do. It's not really necessary up north because that's a full reality, and I'm not trying to adapt in a foreign land down here. This is absolutely spectacular. You're hearing it firsthand. Someone. It will throw you into homelessness. And wipe out $250,000 along with it. And I'm going to take the third party there. That unfortunately I may need to bring up something that's going to very close to resemble equivalent to stalking. This is something. What a waste of all that valuable time. It's also a very outstanding example. There's no guarantee this is going to be high profile. But I can say the only thing I was seeking is exactly what I stated. I gained some very valuable experience. It could have all been the healthiest outcome and just simply professional career counseling. But see, no matter who I relate to down south there, that psychology is completely on steroids. I mean, the medical corruption, pharmaceuticals, all of these powerful special interests, and a whole lot more powerful than you or me. And guess what would happen down here if I stayed down here? That I'm not willing to go through. You can wipe out a whole, everything. It could wipe my whole history out up north. The chance of that happening is probably, they won't believe the series of videos that I've compiled here. No. Look, what I did there is exactly what I stated. I said it's very healthy to do what I've done. It should be completely unnecessary, but I'm in absolute survival. You know why it happened. It's in all these videos, and unfortunately, I might have to be the one that actually writes it all down, but I've got it all documented to make sure the truth comes out here. Welcome to Birmingham, Alabama. You know how all this started? Being unfamiliar with this area and getting a helping hand from the United Way? Yes. I have to say, absolutely, 100%, every single bit of it is corrupt. No such thing as correction. The two-party criminal activity is completely out of control. It's incorporated as norm. The medical is by far the worst. The worst, the most serious boundary violations. You're hearing it firsthand. What gets me is no matter what I did to adapt with all the eggs in the basket, it all equates to homelessness. You think that's help? You won't find any help like that to create any success, nor even get the simplest possible request of professional career counseling. I'd be very fortunate I was able to gain that unique experience in Lake Forest and up and down the Chicagoland North Shore. I am being honest. I can absolutely, fully substantiate, and I have to prove myself. And if everything came together optimally up north, I would be back on that Chicagoland North Shore among the very most successful business leaders. That's the norm I know of in creating success, because I know how to. I'm fully experienced at taking the highest level of expectations and well exceeding that. He really did share the wise counsel related to the Lake Forest Graduate School of Management. That's all I experienced was honesty and the healthiest context. Until I came down here. It's the most, I wish I knew earlier. I should have gotten back up north immediately. But the thing is, something like this is just absolutely outrageous. This is of the most serious, and it's obviously been this way for many decades. So, at any time, I could be thrown into homeless now. Thanks to all the help, which really is brutality to me. It's a way that the government destroys people's lives. You're hearing it firsthand. I believe professional career counseling is about as reasonable as it possibly can get. You only have an ulterior motive of what you want. It is a feeding farm down here. I haven't seen anything that would be in the context of anything that was reciprocal. Not one single person would listen. How do they know? They were relying on falsified medical records. They kept creating the disorders. Yes, it's hard to believe, isn't it, that there wouldn't be a correction. That's how incredibly corrupt it is. They have no business to be in a position of that kind of authority. None. And yet up north in Lake County, there would always be a correction of what's right. That's non-existent down here. Thank you for understanding me. I guess now, am I going to share the experience of being thrown into homelessness by all the help? I think this should absolutely outrage anyone. I can't believe something like that could happen to me. Anyhow, I'm getting to sleep. No, I understand. I did not injure myself. I got in a situation that I was completely naive to. And I thought everything was going to work its way out. All of it. Everything came together to throw me into homelessness. And along with that, what, about $250,000 too. I can't see anything more outrageous than that. Yet, you could put me up on the Chicagoland North Shore and optimally investing that, I'd reincorporate and readapt no matter how severe the injury. It will be very self-explanatory what I was going for and what I needed. What I needed was to get me where it's well beyond the capacity of even the simplest possible request. It is hard to believe this could happen to someone. Yes, and it gets a whole lot more than that. I'm not even involved in it. I can't even imagine people that are involved in this kind of foolishness. It's totally corrupt. It's a feeding farm that never would occur in Lake County. Never. And never along the Chicagoland North Shore. What happened here is equivalent to psychological malpractice. That's what I know of. If I heard about something like this, it's a mess. And guess what? It's not my mess. It's a bunch of, I'm not even going to say it. I want to be halfway politically correct. Thank you for letting me share this experience.